Good afternoon, everybody. Only 2 minutes behind schedule here. Clerk, if you could call the roll.
Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison. Senator Chambliss. Senator Elliott.
Here, we have a quorum. First bill on the calendar is HB 191 by Representative Baker. Senator Orr, this is a companion to yours, is it not? Okay.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. And it is going to basically set the parameters and bring some structure to the tax exemptions that we give at the state level. So there's a process and mechanism for what the locals can do to opt in.
And there's an amendment on this,
Yes,
and I'll move, and it should be first in your package there. And I'll offer the amendment. Senator Chambliss is going to second that. Thank you, Senator Chambliss. Clerk, if you could call the long roll on the adoption of the amendment.
Senator Albritton. Senator Carnley. Senator Coleman. Senator Gudger. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Coleman Madison. Senator Chambliss. Senator Elliott.
Aye. Okay, we've adopted the amendment. Are there any questions on the bill as amended? I'll move for favorable report. Second by Senator Chambliss. Any objection to using the previous roll? Bill receives a favorable report as amended. Thank you, Senator Orr and Representative Baker. Next up, we have House Bill 35 by Representative Bedsole. Hey, buddy.
How are you?
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Members of the committee, this bill simply offers a cancer death benefit to volunteer firefighters. We already have this in place for our paid firefighters. This would allow the cancer death benefit to be eligible to volunteers. There are some parameters and safeguards, if you will, that does require them to be a certified volunteer firefighter. It does cause them to demonstrate they've been active in the service. So I just want to make sure there's clear there's some safeguards in place for them.
Senator Albritton.
Is there a fiscal note on this? I don't see one. Is it behind it? Okay. 152,858 for each state death benefit.
Yes, sir.
But do we have an idea of how many these are anticipated going out?
Yeah, we've never captured the data related to volunteers simply because there have not been eligibility. So, it's a little bit of an unknown, but with the safeguards that you'll find on page, I think 3 that kind of lay that out, you will find it's a pretty narrowly defined group. First of all, that certification, not all volunteers go out and seek a certified volunteer firefighter certification. They also have to demonstrate that they've been active in the service. So we wanted to narrowly define this the best we can.
Yeah, I've gone through the good guideposts and such. My concern is if the numbers come out, so it takes all the money that's that we allocate to the Board of Adjustments, what happens then?
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
Fair question.
Okay, so the limitation believing is going to be until we run out of money.
Yes, sir.
In the Board of Adjustments.
Yes, sir. And there's significant work on my part to overall with the death benefit related to first responders is to ensure that gets cleaned up. And so, as I speak to you before the committee today, I just want you to know I'm working on future projects that we can tighten this up to ensure that line item is never in jeopardy.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion. I have 3 motions for favorable report. We're going to give Senator Kelly that one, second by Senator Hovey. Any objection to using previous roll? Representative, your bill receives a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you, members.
Next up, we have House Bill 29 by Representative Oliver. It looks like we have Senator Orr back. You are doing yeoman's work.
Oh, that's right. That's right. So this is a bill that follows up on something that we did several years ago. Sponsored, you may remember, took the work searches to 3 from 1 in Alabama per week. Several states are now at 5. That's the maximum allowed by the U.S. Department of Labor. Texas, Oregon, Florida, Nebraska, Kentucky all have 5. Several other states have 4. And we'd like to move this to 5. There was an amendment put on in the House to the original bill that distinguished between rural counties, and that being defined as 20,000 residents or less. And that would relax the requirement of 5 because presumably there are fewer jobs available in a lower populated county.
I have a motion and a second. There has been a public hearing called on this one, and so we're going to listen to that real quick, but we'll go ahead and record the motion and the second on it. Let's see here, signed up for House Bill 29, we have David Stout with Alabama Rise. Welcome, David. You're signed up as a proponent.
That would be correct. No, I'm sorry, I'm an opponent.
That's why I made
You know, I
note.
don't normally do this, so you have to forgive me, and Jennifer said I'd have about 30 seconds to make my case.
We're going to give you
so-
60.
Well, I appreciate you, very generous. Thank you,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Chairman,
David.
members of the committee. Let me say that this is a poorly conceived bill. It doesn't need to be any more stringent. The people who are drawing unemployment are already conforming to the tightest guidelines in the country. I understand that people think that if you can just pass another more stringent bill, you're going to help people get a job. That's not so. If you look at unemployment rates in Alabama, it's about 2.8% in December. If you're drawing unemployment, you're looking for a job under already stringent regulations. It's a bad bill. It's not going to help people who are looking for work, and you're going to force more people off of those roles that are presently drawing unemployment compensation. And I'll yield back my 2 seconds to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a motion and a second on the bill. Is there any further discussion? We are on the third bill on the calendar. It's House Bill 29. We've just concluded the public hearing, and we have a motion and a second on the bill, and we're ready to vote on it unless there's any further discussion.
I do have a question on
Yes,
it.
ma'am.
How is this going to help people really? I know that unemployment compensation, there are a lot of barriers right now to, because there are not a lot of jobs. And if you look at people who are already out there searching, adding additional layer of responsibility, when you're trying to find a job, you have to have money to do that because you have to worry about transportation. If you're female, you may have to worry about daycare, childcare, what have you. So right now, I was looking at a handout that somebody had given me about what is already required. Does Senator Orr have the bill or who?
Senator Orr's carrying this for the
Okay.
House sponsor.
Good
Can
afternoon.
you tell me why this additional layer you feel is necessary for adding on to unemployment requirements?
So, right now, according to the fact sheet I have, that we have 127,000 open jobs across the state. And this presumably would require people to look more for jobs and available employment rather than just taking 3 a week. So what are you doing for 40 hours? Let's just say it's a 8 to 5 or an hour for lunch. For 40 hours a week, the current requirement is only 3 searches that you have to do or putting in applications. You can do that electronically. You don't have to physically go to the place. You can submit your application. What's the harm in requiring a 4th and 5th application in to find a job? Because we can't sustain people staying on unemployment forever.
Do we know where these jobs are located? I mean,
I would assume all over the state, depending, and but I think before you got here, one of the amendments that was put on in the House, and I remember this from the conversation several years ago about rural areas and about the perhaps scarcity of jobs.
Right.
This amendment was put on that said that a county of 20,000 or less, the requirement would remain at 3. For a county of north of that of more than 20,000, the requirement would go up to 5. Presumably, more people equal more jobs available in those counties.
look at it from a different perspective. Okay, you say, okay, the jobs are out there. And you may live in a county where there's more than 20,000. There are a lot of them that are out there. However, you may live at one end of the county, but the job may be at the other end. We don't have infrastructure in place to support like public transportation or transportation of any type. That's one of the issues that we identified as far as the Workforce Development Committee: transportation, daycare, housing. Those are the 3 top things that prevented people from getting jobs. And transportation is a connector. If you can't get to a job, course, the cost of a car is already going up today. You're not going to be able to get there. We looked at the fact that women, there are a lot of jobs that are out there, but if I'm paying more for a daycare that I am paying for to get to a job or whatever, so that kind of the math doesn't work.
Yeah, so one of the things, that existing law acknowledges the burden that some people have with transportation. And so the law defines suitable work opportunity. So suitable means that it's got to be accessible and it has to be within a reasonable distance from the claimant's home, or a similar distance from the claimant's last job. So in other words, if I worked 40 miles away in my last job, don't work there anymore, and there's a job 30 miles away, I can't say, well, that's too far. I'm not going there. But it has to be a reasonable distance within my home where I live to kick in as an available job to me that I need to take if I'm qualified.
Okay.
Thank you, Senator Coleman Madison. Any further questions or comments on the bill? Clerk, we've got, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I just wanted to add really to Senator Coleman Madison's statement, because I remember when we were doing that work, when the original TANF requirements were being changed, and it was transportation, childcare. What was the third one that you mentioned?
Housing.
Housing. There's one more, life skills training.
Oh, yeah.
Was another portion of it. And in that work, that's when I was doing I was working with the nonprofit at the time, and we were, surveying our clients. And the life skills piece was another huge piece of just making sure that people have those additional skills that they need in order to be able to get the job and keep it. And so I just wanted to add to that comment.
Okay. Any further comments or questions for the sponsor?
No, I just want to add one
Yes, ma'am.
thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator, I want to thank you for fully explaining that, especially about the distance and not putting necessarily an undue hardship on people. That did clarify a lot of things for me on this. Haven't really read the bill in its entirety, so I may not vote to support it until I do, to make sure those things that you said are in here. Not that I don't trust you.
I'm just relying on my notes, Senator. All right.
Clerk, we've got some folks who weren't here last time for the roll, so if you could get us a good roll and call the long roll, please.
Senator Albritton? Aye. Senator Carnley? Senator Coleman? No. Senator Gudger? Senator Hatcher? No. Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly? Senator Coleman Madison? Senator Chambliss? Senator Elliott?
Aye. Bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Senator Orr. Okay, next up we have House Bill 123. My good friend Bubba Underwood. Members, there are amendments in your package to the bill. There is the bill itself, and we do have a public hearing on this one as well. So we're going to let the representative introduce his bill. I'd like to go ahead and adopt the amendments or discuss the amendments. Then we'll open the public hearing, so we're at least talking about the thing that's before us. Representative.
Yes, sir. So this is a sunset bill. It is not a simple sunset bill in this particular scenario, because we had to do some adjusting and some realigning of the statutory rules for the board itself. All these were based on our sunset hearing, and those are all made manifest inside the documents here. Basically, we really cleaned it up with any sort of confusion, redundancies, and fines, penalties, and fees. We made consistent use of terms, fees, and civil penalties, and gave clear guidance on how those should be used. And some of the main ones that we really will hit on are deferral agreements. Those are no longer available. Fines in excess of statutory authority, we made those clear and cleaned them up with penalty language. Fees charged against non-licensed persons or entities, those are specifically prohibited by statute. And also charging fees were not authorized. We addressed that by providing clarity to those fees, and also saying that they had to come up with fees, publish them on their website, as well as at any other place we can think of, to make sure everybody knows what rules they're playing under when it comes to pharmacies. And so that's the crux, the general of it. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you have. We've spent a lot of time on it, so I'm happy to discuss.
Thank you, Representative. The amendment, I said amendments earlier, y'all forgive me, it is a two-page amendment. And Senator Kelly, if you would discuss that, please.
Yes, this amendment does two things. One, it gives each of the pharmacy schools a appointment to present names to be named to this board. It's a little bit of restructure what the original bill was. The other one is that it gives the penalties and fines to be set in a range. So that's all it changes.
I did fail to mention that we took the board from 5 members to 9 members, and the appointing authorities are now the governor, lieutenant governor, Speaker of the House, Senate Pro Tem, and the universities.
And the association.
And this, yeah, well, they make the recommendations. But yeah, we spread out the appointment authorities.
You've done good work on this.
Thank you, sir.
This was a bit of a mess, and you've done good work on it. Senator Kelly's going to offer the amendment. Is there a second on the amendment? I've got a second from Senator Carnley. Let's see, let's call the long roll on the amendment.
Senator Albritton? Senator Carnley? Senator Coleman? Senator Gudger? Senator Hatcher? Senator Hovey? Senator Kelly?
Aye.
Senator Coleman Madison? Senator Chambliss? Senator Elliott?
Aye, okay. The amendment's adopted, and we're going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Let's see, we've got 2 opponents and 2 proponents signed up, so let's do this. Since, Representative, it's fair to assume you're a proponent of your bill. Let's hear from an opponent and hear from Trent McLemore. Is he here? Welcome, sir. We're going to give you about 60 seconds, okay? I'll say 1 minute. It sounds a whole lot better.
Okay, sounds like more.
Yep.
Gotcha. Thank you. Trent McLemore. We have 7 pharmacies in Madison County, 1 additionally in Tennessee. All 8 are licensed under the Board of Pharmacy in Alabama. I don't have anything really negative to say about the board. Never had any bad experiences with the board. My stance and the stance that we have taken with the Alabama Independent Pharmacy Association is just a simple request that possibly 1, maybe 2 of the appointees come from our organization just to create a little bit of parity. Maybe we submit those suggestions to APA, the state association, to then pick from those. Just to simply just kind of balance each other out. I know we're all walking in lockstep right now and we're all singing Kumbaya, and I want to keep it that way. I think a board member from APA even suggested that, we get through this year. Maybe next year when it comes up at sunset again, then we initiate that process just to show that we can work together between now and then. But that was simply my request, and hopefully we can all work together and make that make sense.
Thank you, Mr. McLemore. And I will say this, I've talked with another senator who may very well be adding amendments or attempting to add amendments like that on the floor to this bill. So he's going to talk with the bill sponsor, and you may see that yet. So
Thank you
just
for
to
your
let you know. Thank you, and thanks for staying on our time frame there. Joseph Krebs as a proponent. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm Joseph Krebs, and I'll just add a little bit to what Trent said. And I'm going to keep it within 60 seconds here. I think we need to look at the Alabama Pharmacy Association's control over the board. I think if you go back and look at since 2011, 12 of the 16 board members were prior APA presidents or heavily involved. I think APA's longtime control of this board, I think if you look at the actual facts and the numbers, led to many of the significant findings in the Sunset Report. So I think it's very important that APA not have a majority of 5 spots on this 9-member board. The other thing that I think needs to be amended is the revenue-based fines. I can't find anywhere else in the law where fines are based on revenue of the entity when they're fined. In 2023, this board raked in $4.4 million in licensing fees and spent nearly $4 million of that money on salaries and benefits. So I think we're just, if that remains in there, we're just leaving, the pot of gold there for them to come in, and continue abusing these licensees.
Mr. Krebs, I hate to cut you off because I'm agreeing with you in what you're saying. Can you do it in about 10 more seconds, please?
Well, I can. The issue here is terrified pharmacists of this board are leaving Alabama, and that's an access to care issue. I mean, they're leaving Alabama. Alabama needs a fair, independent, and transparent board focused on regulation, not revenue.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your comments. Somebody ought to do something about this board stuff. John Lena, Senior Care. John, welcome as an opponent.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Difficult to call myself an opponent because I really only have issues with a couple of little pieces of it. As a director of pharmacy for Senior Care Pharmacy in Tuscaloosa, we service long-term care and assisted living facilities throughout the state, and we do support having representation for long-term care on the board. However, as the bill is written, that recommendation is done by the Alabama Society of Health Systems Pharmacists. All of the pharmacies servicing those settings are permitted by the board as retail pharmacies, and as such, we maintain memberships with the Alabama Pharmacy Association. And I think the recommendation for the long-term care seat, at least, should come from APA. My other concern really is just me head scratching around line 500, 502 when we talk about appointing from each congressional district with a rotating board appointment. There's some concern with some of those minor seats, specialty seats, that those could be locked into a particular congressional district as those roll off over 2-year, 3-year, 5-year appointments. And I think that the bill would be better without that language.
Okay, thank you, sir. Get with the bill sponsor on that, because I hear what you're saying, and see if y'all can figure that out. Let's see here. Next up, we have Johnny Brook. Who's got glasses? Linda, you're already read all the way down there. I can't borrow yours. Brooklier. I'm sorry, sir. You write small, and
You can't read my writing no matter
it's just
what.
not what it used to be. And Linda usually lets me borrow her glasses, which is cute.
I should have been a doctor. I write like them.
Yes, sir.
But I am a pharmacist. I'm Johnny Brooklier. I'm on the Board of Pharmacy, but I'm speaking as an individual. Some issues have come up that I've seen in this, and we haven't had a chance to have a meeting, so I can't speak for the board just as an individual. I own 3 pharmacies in the Birmingham area, and there are a number of issues I'll enumerate in just a second. Because these have come to my attention, we haven't had a chance to look at it as a complete board. The board has addressed and/or is addressing all the issues from the auditor's report. Make no mistake about it. We started when before the audit report got to you guys, we got it and we started immediately. I'm sorry, we got it at the same time. We started immediately addressing those issues. The congressional issues, congressional districts, the issue with that is if you have an independent pharmacist that's elected in District 1, when that position comes up again, it's going to have to come from District 1. If it changed from District 2, okay, you got it. I won't go through it all. That's the thing. So that's going to have to be cleared up. I think needs to be cleared up. It's not going to be fair to the other people in the other districts. I think you see that. Long-term care, again, as was stated by John, is considered a community pharmacy in the Board of Pharmacy. The Academia of Pharmacy, great position, but if the first one comes from Auburn, it's always going to come from Auburn because of congressional districts, that sort of thing. So we got to watch that. And because of the short time here, can't go into everything that I've got, but because of all of these loose ends and the time constraints, I would respectfully ask that you give the board a year to continue making changes, which you've already started, and I'll list those, and let Senator Kelly, Representative Wilcox, and Underwood, who put in gracious amounts of time, work along with the board, and let's present a clean bill next year so that other changes can be made. Once the audit has been done, I know you put in a lot of work and may think that's a waste, but I think it would be good for everybody involved. Just letting you know what's been done since the sunset.
We're double on our time here, if I may, so we've gone real long.
Thank you, sir. I
Thank
appreciate
you very
your time.
much. Senator Coleman, you had a question.
Thank you so much, Ms. Brooklier.
Yes, ma'am.
Stay up, please. He's actually from my district.
Yes, ma'am.
Know him, know his family, and thank you for your public service also. I thought initially when you were talking, because I asked, Were you for the bill or not for the bill? As an individual, you were very clear that you're not speaking for the board today.
As an individual, that's why I kind of wrote in the middle, and I apologize. That's not how you normally do it. But the bill in general, I'm in favor of, but there are parts of the bill that I'm not. So I don't want to come out and say I'm opposed to it because the board did work with them to get it, but there's still a lot of language in there that's got to be cleaned up. It's a complex bill, and I think those that worked on it would agree. There's a lot of details in there that's got to be.
Okay, thank you for that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brookler, but I want to ask a question of the sponsor of the bill, if you all don't mind.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Representative, you're back up.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so, and I was listening. I heard from one of the independent pharmacists that they never had any problems with the bill, with the board itself. Then I also heard, of course, the amount of money from the fees, the $4.5 million. I promise you I'm gonna get to my question.
It's okay.
And then $4 million on salaries. I don't want any of us to think just because that money is there that something nefarious has happened. But I want to ask you the why. And again, I don't think you and I have ever really met.
I don't think so.
But I actually used to chair boards and commissions when I served in the House.
Okay.
But I'm not as familiar today with how these boards are operating, because in the Senate, they didn't put me on anything like that up here. And so I am trying to figure out the why. Like, why did we get to the point? Because then somebody said they never had a problem. Even my person said not necessarily against. But I'm just trying to figure out the why so I can understand it and I can make an informed vote.
Yes, ma'am. So on the why, you mean why did we restructure?
Why did we get
this
here?
bill?
Right.
Yes.
Why did we get here?
So I wish I brought the sunset bill, the public examiner's audit with me. There were, I think, 14 significant issues. I named off 4 deferral agreements. Those were where they were, if someone had an issue of some kind that required a fee, they would not express that fee publicly, keep it quiet, keep the issue quiet, come up with an amount for them to pay, which usually was more than the amount that was published, and no one would know about it. And it set up a scenario where, you know, we won't tell if we charge this amount. It just set up a scenario as such, and to their, speaking to their credit, we never said you couldn't do that. And so there was multiple issues that the auditor found where deferral agreements were entered into where the person or the pharmacy was paying more than the statutory allowance for that. And so we just felt like that needed to go away. They all need to be public. If you've done something that is against the statutes, then, it should be a public thing. Have the hearing, pay the fee, move on, kind of thing. And so that was one of the significant issues. There were also, if it was an outside, out-of-state entity applying to come into the state, they weren't licensed yet.
Mm-hmm.
If they had an issue, say in Kentucky,
Mm-hmm.
they want to do business in Alabama, the board then would attach a fee to that, even though they're not licensed, that said, okay, well, we feel like we're going to have to oversee you more now, so here's the amount you got to pay up front, and then we'll issue you a license. And the optics of that are not good. And so we just said you can't do that either. If they're not licensed, this statute specifically states if you're not licensed, then you can't be fined. And so then it's either yes or no. If we think your behavior in Kentucky was bad enough, we're just not going to issue a license. But if not, come in and we'll watch you. And if you have an issue, then we'll fine you then. No pre-fining kind of a thing. So we specifically took that out by statute. They were charging fees more than was stated by the statute. I can't remember. We also in this split up the attorneys into 2 different divisions.
Okay.
Because there were instances where someone would call and say, hey, what if this happened? And then there was a possibility that 2 days later an investigator would show up and say, well, did it happen? Kind of a thing. And we felt like that there should be times that they should call and ask a question without having fear of repercussions because of that. I wish I remember all 14. There was 14 significant issues.
Yeah, and I would,
they were all of
I
that
would like
magnitude.
to see that, and I hear
ma'am.
that, but then why the change in the actual makeup of the board?
Oh, sure. Well,
Yeah.
because 5, we felt like was a small enough number that they could continue in their current situation of behaving in the same way. With 9 coming from different appointing entities instead of 1, well, now you've got more of an influx of the entire state, from different people, from different appointees with different perspectives, and so now your board with a larger mix of 5 to 9, you'll get a better mix and better decision making.
Thank you for that. I just, and I'll just, again, you and I
Sure.
haven't had an opportunity to work together, and it's
Yes, ma'am.
nothing negative on you. I've just been so suspicious through the past couple of years of kind of how we got to the why. Thank
ma'am.
you for taking that time with me to explain the why. I just wanted to make sure that we as members don't use this body as a way to be punitive against folks because, somebody didn't do what I told them I needed them to do. And so, again, nothing on you.
No.
Because you and I haven't met, but thank you for taking that time to explain to me why you are sponsoring this bill and why the folks that have been working on it have been working on it.
Could I make 2 comments
Sure.
about that? Number one, I would love to sit with you sometime and go over these because I
Sure.
think that'd give a good chance for you and I to know each other better and to show you what those issues were. Be happy to do that with you. Secondarily, there are many probably in this room that felt like it should be more punitive. And we really worked on this bill, especially for me, being a freshman in this grouping, of the difference between oversight and micromanaging.
Yes.
And I don't want to micromanage the pharmacies. I don't want to do it. I've learned so much just in working to get to this point, and I'm way yonder short of where I should be if I want to be an expert in the pharmacy industry. So I don't want us to micromanage. I just want us to oversee. And we felt like if we tightened the rules on it and said, here's your boundaries, and made them smaller, then this issue won't come up again. And hopefully, I didn't say before, but we do review them again in a year. And so at that time, we'll see how they're going, and if there needs to be adjustments made, like we've heard several say that we didn't think of this, or this, and I agree with the issue with the congressional districts, then we can make those adjustments and just keep tweaking the bill to make it better. I appreciate what you said about oversight. It should be oversight only.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do serve on this committee, on the Sunset Committee, and I want you to say that, and I've been on Sunset for a long time, ever since Mr. Sandiford had it, so it's been for a long time. But this has been sort of a recurring issue. And let me just say for everybody's edification, one of the choices that was floated in committee was that, okay, maybe we need to sunset the committee. And I'm like, no, we cannot sunset the pharmacy committee. Can you imagine what the public, because they serve such a valuable purpose, but we don't have, there were a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of things, and this didn't just start this year when we met. It has been something that's been ongoing. Out of all the sunset committees that we've had, this particular issue, we met several times over the summer with pharmacist groups about this. And so this and other issues that's related to them. But I'm hoping that this will give the board and the reconstituted board an opportunity to go back. I do like the idea of them adding a tech.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
know some people ask, well, why the tech? They're not a pharmacist. But the fact of the matter is that they work very closely with the pharmacists. That's a large group of employees, and so I do think that they should have a seat at the table. But I'm hoping that the board now will go back and look at those things. As I explained to one of the members that, look at those things that are on the Sunset Committee that you have negatives that you need to address. And sometimes you need to address things by, if you need to establish a rule and it has to come back through the committee to be approved, you need to do that. Work closely with the agency, the paid staff that's on the state that works with this so that they can kind of be informed about how to do this so that we don't have these types of things. And hopefully next year, after, when we come back and look at them, that they will have gotten, and this will have cleared itself up.
Yes,
But the
ma'am.
main thing is that the pharmacists that are out there working every day should not have to wonder.
Right.
They should not have different opinions about what the fees and fines are, and we certainly should not allow persons who are not licensed in this state to do business.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Coleman Madison, was that you moving for a favorable report as amended? I have a motion by Senator Coleman Madison, a second by Senator Kelly. Is there any objection to using the previous roll? Okay, bill receives a favorable report. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, committee.